guys, if you're running and implementing ads and using different test strategies, maybe you want to know what the different test strategies are. Well, there are 4 key test strategies that I'm going to go through today. There are different testing styles, strategies, and implementation strategies that you might need to be aware of from a higher level point of view, so you can create your strategy and suggest to your team which one we should use to grow our business using ads. What's going on, ad gang? It's your boy Jerry the Ad Wizard, coming back at you with a brand new video. And today we're going to be looking at different implementation types and test rollout strategies. So if you're familiar with ICT implementation systems, you might be aware that there are multiple different implementation styles, whether it be for ad implementation, testing implementation. There are 4 key ones that we're going to go through today, so you know exactly which to use for your test strategy of ad implementation rollout. You may want to also use bits and pieces of different types of testing and implementation strategies, and I'm going to go through exactly all of the different ones and go through some examples as to when each one is applicable. So stick around, guys, we're going to get into it today. Grab your coffees and grab your hats. It's time to spin up some ad magic. Okay guys, we are out here and we are going to look at some different implementation strategies. Like I mentioned, there are 4 different ones for ad implementation and for ad rollout. Here, these system implementations are very applicable to our ads and our ad testing. And I personally worked with some CTOs where testing is very vigorous, but the principles aren't commonly known, so they give you a really good idea as to what you need to do when you implement and test new ads. A changeover from ad implementation or ad testing can happen in one of 4 different ways, okay? We have direct implementation or direct testing, we have parallel, we have pilot running, and we have phased, okay? All 4 of those can be used when you're implementing new ads and when you're testing new ads. So I'm going to go through what it means and the benefits and disadvantages of each one and when you might typically use each one. Okay, so we're going to go into it, guys. Okay, so the first one we're looking at is the parallel implementation. When you have one campaign running and then you have another campaign running at the same time, this is known as parallel implementation or parallel testing. Okay, so this means that you're running the old ads and the new ads. Say, for example, you've got an old campaign and you duplicate that, make some changes, and you've got a new campaign. You can run in parallel the ads together. Okay, so this is typically called A/B testing, right? You may be quite familiar with A/B testing, but it's the idea that you change a couple of variables and you have both of those campaigns or those ad sets or those ads running at the same time. Okay, it doesn't necessarily need to be applied to campaigns, but it can be applied to ad sets and even ads. Okay, so now what is the advantages to this? Well, guys, so the benefits of using parallel ad testing or ad implementation is they can be very useful if you're testing new creatives, new funnels, new messaging, and new strategies. You can have both of those running at the same time, right? So you can compare the performance directly as an A/B test. You can run everything at the same time, see what's working, what's not, right? And you can disable the underperformers and double down on the things that are working. Maybe they're not hitting the ROI that you want. It can be quite costly to run both of these systems at the same time to identify a winner. But once you do have a winner, you can always identify early signaling, turn those underperformers off, keep the ones that are working on, okay? But I guess as a caveat, the disadvantage that it might be quite costly to run both of those at the same time. Now, I'm going to give you an example. You're testing a UGC-style video ad, okay? And then you've got an image ad that's working really nicely, and you want to introduce and test a UGC ad. What you can do is implement the UGC ad whilst the old static ad is still running, okay? This is an A/B test. This is a parallel test, right? You're testing both of the things at the same time. You run both of them and see which one is going to drive the biggest ROAS and turn the other one off if it's underperforming and increase the budget on the things that are working. So A/B testing, e.g. parallel testing or parallel ad implementation, whichever you like to call it. The second ad implementation or ad strategy rollout, direct implementation or direct testing. Okay, what does direct mean? Direct means that, say for example, you have 2 ads running, turning one campaign or ad set or ad off and at the same time turning the other one on. Okay, so directly after one another is a good way to look at it, right? You turn one off and then you turn the next one on, right? In this example, we've turned the second campaign off and the first campaign on, right? Had the second campaign running first and now we have the first campaign running again. That's how we're doing it in this demonstration. So you turn off the old ads and then you launch the new ads pretty much immediately, right? So that is a direct implementation or direct testing. If we're working with a client and they realize that they're trying to acquire new leads, new customers for a new product, they might identify that one onboarding type or one funnel is working better than the other, okay? Therefore, you would turn one off and switch the other one on. You don't want to have them both running at the same time because one's working better and the other one isn't. This is what's known as direct implementation. Turning one off, put the other one on. Now, what's the benefits to this? Well, it's quite quick to implement, and it's good. If the old campaign is underperforming, you switch that one off, switch one on that is performing. This is known as direct. A disadvantage to this could be that it could be quite risky, right? It's high in risk because if the other one doesn't work, then you don't have anything to fall back on, okay? So with parallel testing, you could turn one off and have the other one still running, but with direct, the risk would be turn the old campaign off and have the new campaign running, but the new campaign doesn't generate results. There's nothing really to kind of fall back on. Then you have to create another, in that direct implementation, you have to then create another campaign, turn that old one off and that new one on again. So that's why it's more advised that you A/B test a little bit within some of these rollouts and these testing strategies. Let's say, for example, you're running a conversion campaign, it is underperforming a little bit, and then you have Advantage plus shopping campaign, for example, and you want to test that instead. In the direct implementation, you turn the old conversion campaign off, and you turn the new Advantage Plus shopping campaign on. And in that way, you're just turning one off and the other one on. Higher risk, but if you know that it works, it can be very beneficial. If you've already identified your winners, then you can turn off the ones that aren't working anymore. Right, guys, the third ad implementation and ad testing strategy is phased implementation. This means basically you're rolling out different elements gradually, right? So at this point, what you might call or consider phased implementation would be, in this example, we have multiple of the same CTAs, but we have different headlines, okay? And that is phased implementation. We have A/B tested. We're not running all of these together in an A/B test. We're testing one element at a time. If you have new creative, new copy, or new landing pages, for example, you can do this gradually, right? One at a time. It's not as effective as an A/B test, but it's another implementation or testing strategy, phased. Now, the disadvantage of this, obviously, as you might be able to identify, is that it is slower to scale, okay? But the advantages to something like this means that it's easier to identify and troubleshoot what's going on. You can see all of the different nuances as only one ad is running at a time. It minimizes disruption within the team because you're only testing things very gradually. You're testing things in different phases, right? Now, let me give you an example. But guys, before we get anywhere else, and you're new here, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe. Don't forget to hit that notification bell so you never miss any more important updates. We are here many times a week to help business owners, online advertisers, and digital marketeers get the best from their online advertising, paid media, and digital marketing strategies. But without further ado, let's get on with the video. Say, for example, you have an implementation strategy covering multiple weeks. Week 1, we're going to test different headlines. And here we're testing different ads. Week 2, we're testing new hooks within these ads. Week 3 could be identifying new visuals, right? Have different phases. All of them can reside in your best performing ad set. So you have all of these ads and you're testing all of these ads. So in this example here on my screen, you can have all of these 4 different ads on, okay, and have them all A/B testing, but we're only testing headlines. Next week, we have 4 of those ads on, but we're only testing the ad visuals or the hook, for example, right? Again, we might have all of these on. So you're A/B testing, but you're doing it in phases, okay? You don't necessarily just have to have that one ad on. You can have all 4 of them, where you're just testing headlines, testing different hooks, you're testing different CTAs, right, etc. So the way to think about it is within phases. You're grouping the different variables that are going to have leverage and impact, and you're testing them in phases. Okay, so week 1, we'll do this. Week 2, we'll test this. Week 3, we'll test this, right, etc. Hopefully that gives you some understanding about phased implementation and phased ad testing strategies. You could implement them like this as well. So that's the third one, guys. We're going to now move on to the fourth and final one. Okay, and the final implementation and ad testing strategy is a pilot. You may all have heard of pilot. It means it's the first, right? You're testing something small first to a small group of people, whether this is a product, a TV series, whatever. You always hear of pilot episodes, for example, and you're testing this to a small audience to see how it's going to resonate. So in this instance, what we're doing is targeting a small audience first. Now, you may do this by creating an audience with interest-based or behavior-based targeting, and then when you find out it works, expand it to something like broad targeting, which we know is king right now. In this example, we have identified that parents and high household income is a winning audience. We're going to turn that off because that was our pilot and we've tested to a smaller audience. Now we're going to test it to the general public, in which case this is broad. Okay, so within broad, we're rolling out nationally, internationally, wherever your targeting is, but you were testing it to a small audience first to see how they resonate, right? You could target a state before a nationwide rollout in the US, for example. And the advantage of this is that it's really great for managing risk. As soon as you open the floodgates to something like broad, it's going to target a whole range of different people. Now, if we don't know that certain messaging hooks are going to be working, you might want to target a small region or a small group of people first to see how they resonate, to see what the best performers are, before going broad and targeting the whole country. This pilot example is ideal. If you want to test new targeting strategies or messaging, right, the pilot implementation is great, that you test with a small audience first and then you roll out to a broader audience. It's the same with the system implementation. You have pilots, roll out to small audiences, test that first, and then increase to a larger audience. What's the disadvantage of this? Well, you probably guessed it, guys, right? A disadvantage could be that the results could work really well for your small audience, but when you scale up, it doesn't have the same effect. So the results may not scale when you expand the audience as you expect. So this is a disadvantage of using a pilot implementation, is that we're not always too sure if we do target a smaller audience, that when we scale it up to a broader audience, that you'll see the same results, right? But to give you an example and to really solidify this, what I might suggest is that you launch a new ad strategy in just one region, let's say to just one audience. It's a really small niche audience. See how it performs. And then, depending on the signaling or the data that you get, maybe roll it out nationally or internationally, even globally, right? So it's using small groups of people to test, to identify the signaling in order to then go, right, now we can open the floodgates and spread our message far and wide. It's working to this level. But, and as I said, a disadvantage could be that you find within that small audience, real big resonation, and as you expand, you might need to spend more to find those people again in some of those areas. So that is a disadvantage to this pilot implementation, but just that's how it works, guys, right? So you have a pilot, you have a small test, a small group of people that you test an idea, a message, a hook, different content to, and then go, right, this works really nicely. This could be a lookalike audience, or this could be a certain set audience that you're looking to target. And then you go, right, okay, there is demand for this nationwide. Let's now, and we see that this is working within this region. Let's expand nationally or internationally. So that is pilot implementation, guys. Hopefully that's all 4 of them now that we've gone through. Hopefully that was useful. Hopefully now you have a little bit of understanding as to the methodology around ad implementation and ad testing. But yeah, this is useful. This is bringing in from IT and system life cycles. We're bringing in the same methodology here and utilizing it within our ad implementation and our ad testing. So hopefully that was useful to you guys. Comment down below if you got any questions. And that's it for today, guys. Hopefully that gives you some really good understanding as to the different implementation and ad strategy rollouts for your business, what you need to do to utilize them, how they work the best, and the advantages and disadvantages of each one. This is obviously a high level theory, so if it's useful and you find it interesting, write a comment down below and tell me what you think. I'm incredibly grateful for every single one of you for joining us on this journey of path of discovery and learning. If you got any questions or you have any other topics that you would like us to discuss as the AdWizard team on this channel, then hit me a comment down below and let me know what you're interested in learning about. You can find me on LinkedIn at Jerry Griffiths, Twitter and Instagram at Jerry AdWizard, and at Jerry Dreadlocks everywhere else. If you want to know additional funnel theory for your ads, how to convert those leads as you're building your funnel, as you're creating your personal brand, if you'd like to know how to grow your funnel and to ensure that your audience is converting, I've gone through, created an ad funnel video series, the first of which is linked here. Check out this video over here if you want to find out more about that. Appreciate every single one of you. I'm your boy Jerry the AdWizard, and wherever you are in the world, I bid you peace, love, and a wonderful rest of your day. And as always, I'll catch you in the next one.